standardized patient work. You may have heard about this or seen this, but this is where you're playing a patient during, often it's during like in med schools, in universities, when they're training doctors and nurses and chiropractors and physiotherapists, where they need people to pretend to act like they have a certain condition or certain symptoms, so that the doctor gets practice on people who aren't real patients. And that's a regular work opportunity. And so if you have, especially if you have universities in your city, that's a great way to, and again, Google standardized patient, or Google your local universities and colleges for any health related programs. And chances are they're hiring actors to be standardized patients. Scott McCulloch, one of our members here at Actors Audition Club, he does a lot of that work as well. I've done it in the past a little bit, but I think that pays probably somewhere between $25 and $50 an hour, depending on what you're doing. And it's kind of cool. And that will feel a lot like an acting gig, like being on any of the hospital dramas, where you got to come in and they've given you a list of symptoms and a list of conditions, and you got to realistically act that out and be a real human being without giving it away or being too over the top. You got to be believable and challenging, so that the doctor or the nurse, whatever the program is, they got to figure it out and deal with you, and gives them practice on working with people before they get to the real thing. Have you ever done that?
Not as a patient, but I've done surveys and tested products before, which is somewhat similar, I think.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing is, it's not the same, it's different, but there's also often medical studies, which I don't know that you need to be an actor to do that kind of stuff, but it might be one step aside. Like if you get in with a standardized patient, they might say like, oh, we're doing a sleep study and we want to pay someone, we're going to pay you $1,000 to come in and sleep here for the weekend, and we're going to hook you up to all kinds of electrodes and do some tests and inject you with some stuff and see how you react to it. But yeah, if it works out and it's safe, then that's another opportunity too. Number 9 is working as crew. Now, this isn't necessarily using your actor skills, but the great thing about working on crew is you're working in the industry. You can be making connections. You can be learning on set. And the things that you could probably do tomorrow without any extra training are working as a PA, a production assistant, which means you could be just running odd jobs. That might make you the coffee person. That might make you helping wrangle the background. If they've got 500 background people, they might need some PAs to help them sign in and fill out their forms, or shuttle them, like walk them from background holding to where set is. That might mean helping prepare some of the lunch or craft services. Also a driver. Often they just need people to drive minivans and shuttle crew back and forth to different locations if you have a driver's license. And working on locations, which means you might be sort of camped out the night before, just keeping an eye on the location. That might mean on the day you're dealing with things like garbages and logistics and bathrooms and things like that, but you're working on the location, taking care of some of the logistics. As far as I know, those 3 things, aside from a driver's license, you don't really need extra training or certification, but that's going to get you on set. That's going to get you around other actors and other producers and in the world, and help you network and help you make connections that could then lead to acting opportunities down the road. And then a second layer to this would be to get certified in something industry related, like there's certification things for how to be an AD, an assistant director, or how to be a script supervisor, or a big one these days is an intimacy coordinator, where to protect the actors, they have someone come in and sort of choreograph intimate scenes, love scenes, make sure everything's done safe, make sure everything's done with consent. But for most of those positions, there's an actual certification. But that might mean, I don't know the length of those, but it could be like a weekend course, could be an online thing, or like a night class, something that for a few $100 you can enroll in that, and all of a sudden you learned a new skill that gives you a new certificate to then be booked on all these extra sets, making better money than you might make as a PA or as a more lower level position. So I think working on crew is a great opportunity if that's something that floats your boat. You just worked crew actually recently. Yeah. What were you doing?
Yes, I worked as camera.
Your experience. Yeah, you were camera assistant. Yeah.
Yeah, I was charging batteries, I was running pieces, I was getting things for actors, I was getting things for other crew. I was a PA and camera person all in one,
Right.
and it was great. I learned a lot, and it was definitely an interesting experience seeing it from that other side.
Yeah, I think for most of us, it's like I'd rather be on set than doing most things. So if there's a way to
Mhm.
be on set and be around that, like, so most sets have a pretty good vibe if they're well run, they have positive energy and feels like you're at movie camp and you're around a bunch of cool people making cool things. So at whatever level
Yeah.
you're helping out with that, even if your goal is you want to be the star of the thing, well, you're not going to be the star of everything. So if you can be on crew for some sets and for some productions, then that's going to pay some bills for you, help you make some connections, help you learn. All of those things are great opportunities. And number 10
Yes.
is we're in a world of social media content creation. That could be creating your own
Mhm.
videos, your own podcasts, editing. That could be social media management for small businesses and other small companies. That could just be creating your own content rather than wait for proper acting gigs through TV and film productions. You could just be making your own little TikToks, your own Instagram reels, your own video series, sketch comedy, your own podcast. And if it's not your own thing, um, develop a skill, or maybe you already have the skill of video editing, audio editing, and you can be helping
Mhm.
other companies, and they might even be TV and film editing things, or it could be lower level social media content creation. I know, Brandon, you never used to be an editor, and then we brought you on here as
Mhm.
a session director. You learned how to edit self tapes, and then from there you started helping out with the podcast. So now you know how to edit podcast video and podcast audio. So now that's
Yep.
just a skill in your back pocket that you can market yourself, and I think you're doing it for another podcast, but that's something that you'll always have.
Mhm.
And if you were ever in a pinch for money, you could just literally DM 100 podcast accounts on Instagram and be like, "Hey, I'm available if you need me as an editor." Or you could create a Fiverr, or what's the other one? Fiverr's one. Um, there's a bunch of sites where you can, as a freelancer, I'm spacing on the other name. One
Mhm.
is Task Rabbit, but Fiverr is one for like graphic design, for editing, for podcast editing. Maybe you're good at making posters, show posters, movie posters, all those little things that, it's not your acting skills, but it keeps you in the world. It's a creative endeavor, connects
Mhm.
you with people who are in industries that you want to work with. So yeah, I think with the proliferation of social media content, it's like that's always something that if you have the right skills, you can help a lot of people, and create a profile on Fiverr and say, I'm available to edit your podcast, $50 an episode, or I'm available to make posters. Here's my rate, and you just work as a freelancer on the side.